But they look up which ones are full, you know, you can see what percent full these things
Oh,
are
I think
generally.
maybe they're all full because all the pilots and.
Yeah, that's it.
Coming and taking the space A.
I do sit next to people in uniform a fair
Oh,
bit,
yeah.
yeah.
I have two.
All right, so what are we up to?
Oh, we're just hanging out. The usual. Update track. So on your desk is the flyer that was included in your email with the last month's meeting notes. This is the flyer that had been posted here at Town Hall and on the website with a link to the committee open house we had last night. I don't think there were any takers at the community open house last month, but it was also posted over at Guardian Storage where the recycling.
I saw it today, actually.
And shred event is happening now.
Where I like
which is
this and
great.
that, I like that
So it's great to
arrangement.
get the word
It's
out.
continuing
Melissa
his
always
thing
makes
is
such nice
really
flyers.
nice.
Win-win.
She,
They're,
she found that-
no, I voted against that facility, but boy, they've been good citizens.
I haven't looked at house construction going.
How's construction going?
Not there, but.
The houses,
houses.
they're almost sold out.
No kidding.
Yeah, I think there's only a couple of lots. Still. Yeah, they went like, well, it's a product
Yeah.
that people are jumping on, and they're expensive. I mean, they're not cheapies.
I still can't believe they sold those, you know, Monte ones, so yeah, I guess people are willing to pay whatever.
If you go tour those homes, they're nice, but they're really pricey.
They are nice. I saw it posted in the real estate feed, or Millis forwarded to us, and I thought there was one that was on the south side facing the open space, it was over $800,000.
Yeah.
Was the sales price.
Yeah, yeah. They're getting some pretty hefty lot premiums on some of those lots.
Yeah.
Question is, how are their recycling services and conservation amenities?
How are they? They're fantastic because they're exactly what everybody else in our original town.
Yeah, they're gonna be part of town.
They are, they're certified town.
And again, does the code say that you guys have to review all the buildings like there and elsewhere for recycling?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was
And,
included in the
and,
design
and
guidelines.
is,
It was
and
in-
is
yeah.
someone actually doing that?
Well, there's nothing, no buildings
It's
to
not
do
to
it.
the level that I
Yeah.
think it should be.
Yeah.
I mean,
the
space for
code.
recycling is one thing,
Well,
but
it's in the design guidelines too.
Yeah, the work that this
They
group
are.
did was included in the design guidelines almost verbatim.
I agree, but, I mean, in remembering what we did with those, it was very basic, and we even asked why we couldn't have more input on how it was set up. And, yeah, because there were no specifications saying you should have a building, you know, that has these. We
You should
ended
have
up wording
parallel
that we strongly
access.
encourage
What
that the
need-
buildings be
Someplace
provided
that lets the
with
truck get
troughs and
into.
stuff like, you know,
That's-
defined
someplace
areas,
to have
more frequent
bins.
areas, but
That's the
so I
values we've
totally
had in
agree
the
with what
past.
you're saying,
Oh,
but it's
and
not
you're
to
not
the
the only
scope
one.
I
I mean,
think that it should be.
City of Seattle.
To have an effective.
Hard Rock Cafe, downtown Seattle,
Really?
did not have
Yeah,
a
yeah,
way
that's
for
where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I remember,
a truck
that
to
was
get
for
in there.
the
They screwed up. They built
approved
like,
years
they had to
ago.
enter
Yeah, exactly, but it was
96
even, I'm
gallon
remembering back
containers.
to this development too.
A couple times a
And
day.
this was before
Yeah,
your
with, like,
time,
a
yeah,
zillion
when we
of them.
looked at
It was
those.
a
and-
disaster.
Yeah, you couldn't, we weren't really able to do anything.
Someone screwed up.
Like specific comment wise, but I do think that the town code does address the conservation and stuff like that pretty well currently, because
Oh,
we
yeah,
did review
absolutely
that
does.
very tightly. We did get the opportunity to work that, but it was like the recycling, we haven't actually been able to get much tooth into that. And I think with the town changing to no real adopted policy on percentages and stuff like that, that kind of lost a bit of that tooth, but.
Yeah, so I guess you know, like you mentioned, this particular development has the consistent standard that's been applied to the town. But as the FDPs for vertical buildings come forward, you know, I'll bring all of those to this group, and you'll have a chance to go through them in some detail.
Yeah.
And maybe find some ways to apply some of the broader, I think, policy
That's the
goals
time-
and objectives
that's the time
that
to
were
catch
captured
it.
in the design guidelines that all of us spent so much time on, you know, and had those, some very specific language, maybe not specific building by building, but that will definitely be an opportunity for each of the committees to weigh in. and
Yeah,
make
looking forward to
suggestions
that, for sure.
So hopefully we'll have an FTP, hopefully in the first quarter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, hopefully in the first quarter.
one.
So the PDA amendment is scheduled to go to the Planning Commission on this coming Tuesday, and then to the board tentatively on the meeting of December 14th, the 1 December meeting. And this is a follow-up to the concept plan that was presented to the board last month, which showed the changing configuration of Main Street is the predominant change, and then a few other geometry changes with those two blocks 6 and 7, and then also responding to the board dialogue on moving Creekview Way, the street that's along Park Number 2, that used to have, or the current PDA has approved buildings on the north side of that between Creekview Way and the creek in Park Number 2. The amendment proposes putting the street on the other side of the buildings and moving that block down. So
Interesting.
It's 3 or 4 material changes that have made sense for the developer moving forward. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that concept plan presentation meeting, it's on the website if anybody's interested. It's a great presentation.
I'll have to revisit it.
And then the other item was moving the town square that was 1 block over from the Boulder Valley Ice Building, moving that over to Block 7, so it's right in front of the Boulder Valley Ice Building. So
Interesting.
it's a much more effective way to make it a pedestrian-focused area, because the destination of the Boulder Valley Ice Facility and having the plaza right across from that, and then have that be perpendicular, more or less, to the promenade, was an opportunity that all the urban planning and design firms and consulting firms that they talked to said was a must-do change.
Really? That's interesting. I can kind of see the thought process in it, but you would think the amount of traffic that'll be going in and out of Boulder Valley Ice, that's almost counterproductive, but because it's across the street, maybe that's where
Well, you lose a
it
few
makes more sense.
pedestrians.
Now we know who's like wiping out people left and right. So I guess we should formally call this to order though, huh?
Call it our euthanasia alley.
Unless you guys did that, but did you guys actually
No,
ever?
there's only 4 here, so
Who's
it's
been
not a
yapping?
quorum.
So do we have to formally call it to order since we can just yap
There's
then?
only 3 here, I don't count.
Well, yeah, Joe doesn't.
You
It's not that
do
you don't count,
count.
Joe.
I don't get to vote.
All right, so I guess let's just go ahead and do what you
Yeah.
wanted to update us with, please, Martin.
And you can kick around the work plan because it's time.
It is time. Joe's going to foreshadow a little bit, but the work plan is tentatively scheduled to go to the board every year at the second meeting in January. So we'll have tonight's get-together, and December, and then the January meeting to finalize it. So sometimes it takes a couple meetings to massage through and make sure that everybody's interests are reflected in a way that makes sense for the group.
Okay?
So no public comment, and then just a couple of business and update items that I can pass along.
Somebody just walked that way.
I got my kids here tonight,
Oh.
unfortunately.
They
so
don't
I
have
wanna
any
lose one.
comments?
I can go ask them if they have any comments. They probably do, but you wouldn't want to. Probably wouldn't agree or think that they're particularly useful. All right, so the fall document shredding and electronics recycling with Guardian Storage is happening again this fall, and our partners at Guardian Storage are always so great about being cognizant of trying to help us get the word out as much as possible and being flexible and willing to let us partner with them. So you've seen the e-blasts go out over the last 6 weeks, and then in last month's newsletter there was a placeholder, and then in this month's newsletter that went out a couple of weeks ago had the details on the event running from October 26th through November 13th. It was great that they were able to expand the hours or expand the duration of it to include another week or two last year, or the spring event this year, which has been great, and they continue to receive a significant volume of materials. I haven't heard how they're doing in comparison to the spring or to last
I mean,
year.
they're beyond generous. You know, it's like I went in today and they had 3 slotted bins, but the middle one was unlocked, so you could
Right, just don't.
Just
just
the
dump
big
stuff
stuff
in
out.
if you wanted to. That was great. And
The folks at Data
I
Storage do
need
a
to
great
take
job.
some electronics because I forgot
Or
about
data
that.
safe.
But it's only through tomorrow, so hurry, people.
One day.
Yeah, if you have anything left, this is down to it.
She said they're planning to do it twice a year. That's what she said to somebody else when I was in there, so that was
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah, the spring and the fall has been great.
Mhm.
The 2000s, so no questions on that, unless anybody has anything on that. Just it was another great program that this committee continues
Now,
to
I think we
recommend.
owes them a
and to move
huge
forward
thanks,
with.
because that's at some cost to them, and I
Mhm.
don't know how to repay them for that, so.
And DataSafe, the company that they partner with to actually do the shredding, does a great job, and they help a employ folks who have developmental disabilities
Oh, very
run
nice.
the process for them.
Very
It's
cool.
it's a
I
very
love
well-regarded
that.
project and a very well-regarded program.
Maybe we should see if the Superior, the youth committee, maybe we should see if they could do like a special little thank you for them. I don't know. I even be willing to buy like the materials.
Sure.
I know it sounds corny, but you know,
Mhm.
that's really nice because maybe we could find out how many people they employ and do like a little goodie bag or something silly like that.
Mhm. That's a good idea.
I know,
Some sort
corny,
of-
but I think it's just so generous all around the board.
Keep hearing the door open. Hey, how are you?
Hi, just fine. This is the recycling committee?
It is. Would you like to join us? Feel free.
I had a question.
Come on in.
Come on in.
Proposal.
So we started our agenda. If you're interested in participating or have a comment you'd like to share, the chair can recognize you and you can come forward to the microphone there and say your name and whether or not you're a resident here and
Okay.
share your comments.
That's great. Yeah, I would love to recognize our public comment. So come on in. Good timing.
So, my name's Austin Todd, and I am a resident. Do I need to give my address or something? Or?
Not necessary.
Okay. I was just curious. So I live in the townhomes, the Summit at Rock Creek.
Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out a way to do composting for myself. And I live by myself, so I create a very small amount. So first off, I know there's the service through the waste or the trash pickup, but that's way too expensive for me, and I'm creating like maybe a 5-gallon bucket over the course of a month or something.
Right.
So I went down to where the yard waste composting is, thinking I could drop it off there, and then being told and realizing that's just for yard waste.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, is there any way, since somebody is there, and they're picking up composting of some sort, is there any way for residents to drop off table scrap kind of composting? I mean, to set up some sort of system like that? But the only, I did like extensive research on what I could do with my composting, which I'm like keeping in a 5-gallon bucket, and I figured out the charm facility in Boulder off of Arapahoe is the only place I could find that would take my single person composting.
I'm surprised they take it. I didn't know they did.
Yeah, it's.
They do, yeah. But
And
that's kind of
it's a
counterproductive
small
in some
fee.
ways, isn't it, to like
Huh?
drive? It's kind of counterproductive though in some ways to like have to drive to Boulder
Maybe
to do
stem-
it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Huh.
Thanks
That's
for
a
the
very
question.
good question.
And I wonder, I have no idea the process they use, but it seems, how big is the dog waste container? It seems like maybe we should talk to those guys and see if it would help their mix or not help their mix.
Yeah,
That's actually a very good
exactly.
question.
I was
So-
gonna say that too, you're also composting all the dog waste.
Okay, I think that's a really good question. I know there's been some stuff that we've been discussing as to what we can do to have a better composting service for those people who want to take advantage of it, because as you mentioned, the canisters are great, but they're quite large and not everybody wants to pay that fee. I mean, if you're doing tons, that's great. So, funny enough,
That's-
one of tonight's
So I put-
topics is our work plan.
That's what I had in for the work plan. That's
Yeah.
one of my couple of items for the work
So
plan.
obviously, we couldn't promise anything right at this time, but I
Thanks.
think
No, no.
that
Thanks
gives
for
us some
raising
good
the
food
issue.
for thought, because I have a question, because one thing that
Oh.
came about in my head when you were doing it.
I have one question.
Right.
What about your garbage disposal?
What about it?
So, our garbage disposal system, we do something productive with the end product. So while it's not as ideal as, it's direct compost, it does actually become application onto land, correct?
It does, yes. But the
So-
notion that there's a wealth of capacity to fill is diminished because we've
Because that and
modified
that.
how our train works at our wastewater plant.
Okay. Anyway, you would achieve something similar, not as good, but in any case. It's better
if
than
I-
throwing it in the trash,
By
let's just say
using
that.
your
I see.
disposal.
Just sending it down my disposal. Okay, and then it's captured in the wastewater
And it
whatever.
becomes a land application.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
interesting.
Beneficial.
I see.
It is beneficial, it's only because we had extra capacity at the water facility, right? That we can kind of do some.
There were
of-
like 4 conditions and we met them, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at least for the interim, I think that's a good idea.
And on a small scale.
So my question was
Small
going to
scale.
be, would you, as a citizen, if something wasn't able to be coordinated in terms of like a public drop-off or whatnot, would maybe like a partnership with other people have larger compost bins and want more compost? Would something like that interest you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I don't know, I don't know a lot of my neighbors. That was something that I thought of. I don't know a lot of my neighbors. I don't know if,
For the obvious
uh,
reason.
I'm not the most outgoing, organizing person, so that seemed a little bit more. I wanted to propose the, using the yard waste compost first, but yes, that would be great too, like, 10 people or something get together.
Yeah, some sort of like a co-op, where somebody actually has like, because obviously I know you don't have a yard, so if
Right.
somebody had like a large yard with a bin, maybe they actually wanted more people to contribute to their pot. I was just kind of thinking out loud, kind
How
of
frequently is the
short-term
yard,
options.
how frequently is the yard waste container dumped?
The
Martin?
dog waste, you mean?
The drop-off?
The yard waste site is dropped off sometimes, several times over the course of a weekend, depending on how busy it is.
And and if we bring it to Western, if we brought it to Western, Western is certified for food.
Yes, well, Western is, but Western is not the town's current
I'm
provider.
just saying.
Yes.
If we brought it to Western, then we could
They do.
potentially add food, especially if it's dumped as often as you're saying.
Mhm.
The neighbors shouldn't complain if it's dumped multiple times in a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It is going away next weekend for the
Yeah,
winter.
I get that, but, and we could easily educate people, if we ended up using that drop-off.
Mhm.
We could educate people pretty easily about, freeze it, do other stuff, that helps make it smell as least as possible.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. So, yeah, that would definitely be our commitment, is that we happen to be working on our work plan, and so we can build that in for early next year. I know we already had a goal of coming up with some options before next spring, so that people could take advantage of them without having to necessarily contract to the regular dump service. So I think that's a really good question. Thanks for bringing it. Okay.
Could I ask one more quick question? So you said you
Sure.
lived in Summit, right? So
Yeah.
the Summit HOA engages Waste Connections to provide service there? If I-
Yeah, the same service that the entire Rock Creek uses.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
Rock Creek Master HOA also
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
vendor provides both?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you said they offer a subscription compost service, but you felt that it was an exorbitant rate, or what didn't make sense for you with such a small stream?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
It's
my.
pretty hefty for.
It's like 125
He doesn't have yard
bucks per
waste, he
season.
only has food
Yeah.
waste,
Yeah.
because
I
he has
just
no
wondered
yard.
if they had something
Yeah.
separate for people who don't have the big yards, is it?
I know, it's almost
Oh, they
interesting. I
barely
would almost
have
think that like
yard
the
waste.
Summit HOA themselves could come up with something, but maybe
Maybe
that's
they-
what we
the
need to look
program is
at,
very,
part
you
of
know,
it, saying, hey, for those high-density areas where they don't have yards, could the HOA look at having their own bin for all the residents to use? Because as them, it would be a fairly small cost, at $125 a season just to have one bin, but I think it's worth considering as part of the approach as well. It's a good
Sure.
question.
Yeah, I just wondered if multifamily developments actually have kind of a service that provides the food scraps to be picked up. It's not something that your HOA does?
No. I mean, this is the first place I've come to, but I could also go and propose something to them as well, but,
No.
not
Did you move
currently.
here from California?
No.
Okay, I thought you maybe moved here where they had the program, so.
Yeah. I know, we all wish that we lived in Lafayette right now, because it's just part of their service.
Actually, I was thinking that before the next meeting, as part of our work plan, I've got the data for all the cities in the county. I think I could show where we perform in it, and it ain't pretty.
I know it's not.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much
thank you
for
so
your
much.
time. I think this was really valuable, and it gives
Mhm.
us some great ideas on how to move forward with something we were thinking about already.
Nice to meet you.
Great.
Thanks for your
hearing me.
time. Come by
Thank you.
anytime.
Sounds good.
Join even.
The meeting, so.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
You should join.
You can't leave until you join.
Sign the
Lucky
contract.
us.
Scare the poor guy off.
No, and I'm liking where you're headed with that, Lisa, because that's definitely an issue,
Mhm.
a very sour issue with me right now, so. All right.
You want to be next to Ward?
Next one.
Just saying, in recycling performance, if there's like the top 4 or 5, and then.
Yeah, we're way down. It's
Yeah.
disgusting. I'm beyond
We
not
don't,
happy.
compare very favorably.
No, not a surprise. All right, so back to the budget then.
So, thank you, Michelle. So the 2016 budget was approved by the town board last month, the October 26th meeting, and there weren't any material changes from what this committee has heard from me over the last couple of months about what was in the proposed budget that the board reviewed over several meetings over the summer, and heard the formal first reading and then second reading for approval last month. So all the things we've talked about in the past, I won't belabor them again unless you're interested, but I've recounted them to you all several times. But the budget is approved.
Perfect.
So no news items, just an update there to let you know that is complete, that process is complete. And the third item on the new business and updates list that I had was the annual Christmas tree program. The Scouts were planning to have, again this year, coordinate with the folks who manage the materials, the compostable and organic materials that are picked up at the yard waste site to do the Christmas tree collection again, which has been great. Hundreds of Christmas trees are picked up over a very short period of time. The folks who coordinate that for us, the current vendor, Superior Maintenance, does a great job coordinating with them that day to get all the trees in and get them all out, that same day. It's an amazing amount of trees. So we're looking forward to having that again this year. There was one other item. Oh, the volunteer appreciation dinner. You had a chance to go to the volunteer appreciation dinner last week before last. Thanks for going.
Oops.
Michelle.
Yeah, oops.
I didn't notice it.
It was
I mean,
great.
It wasn't on my calendar. But
The invitations were kind of sporadic. I'm not sure, in fact, I'm not sure I ever got one. Actually, I went. But,
have you guys ever thought about doing it as an Outlook invitation as well?
We sent them as I'm not an Evite, but the Evite.
It was
competitor
paperless
one.
post, wasn't it?
Paperless something, the paperless.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
invitation
if you
company?
did it as.
No, but it came with.
If,
It comes as a schedule item, which is
Yeah.
great. I just put it in my schedule. Which is
Really?
Very
Yeah.
it didn't
Yeah.
show
But
up in
it's
my
not
Google, in
Microsoft.
my
yeah, that's why
Outlook.
I don't recall
I
seeing
think you
it.
had to tell it,
Yeah.
so that could be
So,
definitely
but
worded.
I sort of assumed I was invited.
Well, good. There's always an extra fajita for you, Joe.
And the only reason I knew it was happening was because the Historical Commission was having email traffic, because they all got invites.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I can't remember, because
Darn.
somebody else, you aren't the only people that I heard mention, like, I don't even remember seeing the invitation for it until like I saw like a reminder.
And you
I
were the-
swear, I
were you
just-
the only
if it doesn't show up in my
contact member
calendar, I
that- I wonder if others got the invite.
Well, I know Tanya did.
I got it.
Because
I
she
just
thought she was
had a
on-
And you
conflict
had-
then, but.
Okay.
yeah.
You had mentioned it, and so it was in my brain that it was coming up, but yeah.
Mhm.
It was really good.
I
It was
supplied
a-
all of
Sorry, I missed-
y'all's emails
Mhm.
to Tori to send them all out, so.
I
maybe it
have
ends
to
up in
say
Duck Mail.
though, and I can't look at it right now
Where
because
was
I don't
it?
want to search on my
Oh,
phone.
it's-
But
it was-
if I remember,
it was
the
the
title
figure
being
all
really
day.
bizarre in the, in the subject.
Just right, it was nice.
Does that make sense?
Would've been
Well,
nice to
I-
see.
Like, because
Would've been
I remember
all day.
looking at it and
Chat.
going, I actually deleted and undeleted it. I was like, oh, wait a minute, that was actually something I wanted.
Oh, just
Does that make sense?
the wording didn't seem
Yeah,
like
like it didn't
fit.
catch my eye, that's what it was for.
Yeah.
Because I totally undeleted it and then went, oh, I actually need to pay attention to that. Yeah?
Maybe that's what I did, without undeleting.
Yeah, that first
Second
second
critical
update.
step.
I was like, oh, was that a town thing? Oops.
Well, but thank you to the folks who did have a chance to make it.
Yep,
Did
sorry.
understand that the wording meant that it was last Thursday. Thanks for coming. I didn't think, I guess I mentioned it last month and I mentioned the date
You
and time,
did.
but I didn't
You
send
did.
out a separate calendar
Yeah,
item. I have to try and send you guys calendar items
Yeah.
that come from me, so you know that they're regarding this committee. I will, I'll leave myself a tickler
You're
to
the only
try
one
and
who
do
does
it.
that, by the way.
What?
Send out separate calendar items for meetings.
Oh, good. Well, I don't know, is that good or bad?
Okay.
That
That's
means-
good.
good.
It's good?
You get me
Well,
here
good.
when I'm here.
Good. Well, when you're
When
in
I'm in
town, we're
town,
glad
I'll
that you
come.
come by.
Look at that.
It's hard to keep track of who's sick.
Well, I know everybody's schedules get packed, and like Lisa mentioned, if it's not in your
I was,
mic, if it's not
I was
in your
working
Outlook-
away, and then it popped up.
Yeah, I know. it's
So that's
always
why I was a
delayed.
little bit late, because it popped up. And I went, oh, God,
Maybe
here,
that's
Dana, do
Saturday.
this, and then run out. Yes.
Then I just sat in the corner pretending I didn't exist, so that was all good. So.
Hey, I wasn't late last time, I was just late this time, so.
Oh, that's funny. Well,
It was
everybody gets
nice,
their
I like the
information.
casualness of
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, they're always great. It's always great to get together and not be in this building with really specific things to go over. It's always a good dialogue to just kind of eat some food with somebody you don't normally talk to about stuff that you don't normally have to talk to about.
Yeah.
It's always nice to, and it's great for the board to just say thanks for the folks who are here.
It is.
So Christmas tree program, volunteer appreciation dinner, the shred event, budget was approved. The only other item I wanted to go over, like I've been trying to go over the last couple of months, is just mention the things that are on our kind of media outreach list, the things that are in the newsletter. So we've got.
I have a quick question back to the Boy Scout stuff. I've always wondered, because I know that they collect money, and it's fine if the town does this, but does the town actually pay then for the recycling itself?
Oh, yes.
Or do the Boy Scouts contribute back towards it?
No, it is completely picked up by the town's general fund.
No, I think that's pretty cool. I just kind of, yeah, it's funny because the Girl Scouts are just like, well, how can we earn money in mass like that? They've never been able to figure it out.
Find some moms and dads with a trailer and
I know, but
horn
it's
in on
just.
their business.
I know, yeah, we don't
Yeah.
want to
Back,
step
We
on our
would-
Boy Scouts.
back in the 80s when I lived in Alabama, the Boy Scout troop did a newspaper pickup every month. Had the trailers, and it was really the only recycling of newspapers going on in that town.
Yeah.
And it was a good deal. They made money doing it.
Yeah, I'll have to come up with some weird little niche thing, but that was kind of part of my question, because I was like, ooh, I don't know if the town does that for them, and if they would be open to new ideas, but maybe we'll have to look at that.
Maybe find a way to work with them.
Mhm.
Yeah, that'd be great. It would be unfortunate to be in a position of picking between competing groups. to
Yeah,
provide
that's the
same
whole thing,
service.
that's why we were thinking about doing something different, haven't come up with
Maybe
an
like
idea
compost or
yet.
something?
Yeah, but that was a question I had, I'm like, oh, so do we have to pay for it too, or what? But yeah, that's
Mhm.
funny enough, yeah, we could maybe invest in a huge compost bin, and then, yeah.
There was a Girl Scouts or a Brownie troop or a female group that was interested in doing a fundraiser and participated with a garage sale a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
Do you remember that?
I
don't know
do.
how well that went.
I don't know either. I think they kind of ran their own like multi-level sale or whatever it was, but yeah. Because like the Boy Scout service unit, from what I understand, isn't just here, it's like also Louisville, whereas the Girl Scout service units are very niched, so we have our own one here in town. And Louisville has their own, so it's kind of, yeah, whereas the Boy Scouts share like a big pack
Mhm.
type of thing, so. Yeah, the money that they're getting from our town doesn't necessarily go to our Boy Scouts, whereas with the Girl Scouts it does. I'm not saying it doesn't, some go to our Boy Scouts, but yeah. I'll have to look at that, come up with some ideas.
Well, it's time to start thinking about it now, because it's going to be
I know.
spring before you know it, Michelle. Start
It's
with the spring cleanup.
almost the end of the year and I'm already crying.
So items that were in the newsletter this month. So we had the e-cycling and shred event, and then the Do Good. So the Do Good, the Keep It Clean partnership does a great job of publicizing keeping pet waste out of the watersheds. And so every other month we have a tickler to put this out in the newsletter. This is always
So
Melissa
they're-
always finds some great graphics to go with this flyer.
And they're providing the content for us every month?
When does the next one come out?
No, they have a flyer that Keep It Clean Partnership puts out, and then we put it in our newsletter.
Oh,
But
so they send something out every month and then Melissa picks up?
They send it out maybe once a year, or whatever that is,
Oh,
or
okay.
however often they update it. And it's always a really nice, it's a great picture of, the website's not working very well today.
When does the next newsletter come out?
When does what?
The next newsletter come out? Does it come out the 1st?
It's always around the 1st.
Okay.
Melissa shoots for the 1st or the last business day before the 1st if it lands on a weekend.
Okay.
But sometimes it's on me or other management staff to try and make last minute submittals and revisions and edits. But it's always around the 1st.
Should we mention the dates for the Christmas tree pickup in that newsletter?
It will in December, yeah, when the Scouts finalize their program stuff. They've, the last several years, have set up their own Google form to sign up, add your name, address, through how they receive them, and it's up to them, but we always have it out in December, when people start getting Christmas trees. And then this Do Good program is always some good information to put out, just so that people are aware of the fact of what pet waste can do to the watersheds. So we have that, and then Energy Smart, we have their tip. We try to put a tip in every month from our friends over at Boulder County in the Energy Smart office, and Lee is always great about forwarding information. So this is the fall tip of using spray foam, and then adding insulation is always a good fall tip. And CRC has had a new press release come out talking about the Slow the Flow program, Slow the Flow program focusing on indoor use, now that the outdoor irrigation season is over. So those were usually there's 3 or 4 items that are sustainability related in the newsletters, so I want to touch on those. And those were the items on my list, and then we had this holdover item on.
Well, so what's the newsletter? I thought you were getting at articles that need to be in the next newsletter. Is that
Mhm.
where we were headed?
Yes.
Okay. So it seems like December 1st is kind of late for the shopping one, and I'm not sure if people, but maybe, I don't know.
It's not late for me.
Sorry. That's bringing back all sorts of funny things.
Are there any other topics of potential?
Gifts, and then the gift wrapping are the articles I think this group has traditionally worked
That's-
on in years past.
That's the recycle one yes, the one we've recycled for a long time, but yeah.
The recycling article?
Yes, exactly.
It's always good.
Stolen from Michael Patton in Tulsa, yes. But,
Yeah, I mean, it seems too simple, but I think I know last year there were some people that kind of suddenly came up and said, oh, I saw that and never knew that was available, so maybe
And-
more people are paying attention at least.
the first year that we did it, we tried to partner with Target and others to say, when we had certain kinds of gifts that we were, the top 10 gifts and things that weren't, paper, unrecycling, we tried to partner with Target, and that might be something we'd shoot for next year or something if you want. It's probably too late to this year, but we identified places that you could buy all of those things here in town, that sort of thing. So that's a possible way to go, to liven it up a little bit and have a little event, sort of kicking it off, so. anyway.
Okay, so maybe, like you said, it's too late, but maybe we could actually make a real defined hard goal to do that for sure next year.
That would be, it's a thing to throw in the pot.
If we wanted to have an event and
Yes.
target somebody, we should pick at Starbucks to start recycling their cups or
It is
compostable.
disgusting. They don't even have recycling
No,
at all
it's all
at their
landfill.
business.
It's landfill.
I guess they dropped their interest. They were meant to be there were people at the national level working with them to get recyclable containers and all this and stuff, but they
Well,
must have decided it wasn't worth it.
Actually, that's
Everything-
not completely true in this case. I have a little bit more information on that one. It's the building owner.
Is
Oh,
it
interesting.
really?
It is, because I know somebody who works there, and they have tried, because Starbucks does have it. And this came up in a conversation, it's funny, this came up, because this came up in a conversation a couple weeks ago, and they were like, oh yeah, we want to recycle, they even have some of the employees taking it home, but it is the building owner that is refusing to put it in, and we all know who that building owner is. So,
Well, they have recycling in their,
Dodds.
in their shop, but they
Landover.
say the lids are the cups are landfill.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that,
Because they're plastic lined.
and I go to CU football games or events there, every single thing they do is composting.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's insane that Starbucks isn't forced to,
Yeah.
public opinion isn't going after them to do that.
But I think it's a double-edged sword. I mean, even if Starbucks has a recycling program, they cannot use it at this store because the owner of the building won't provide the facilities.
That's the car dealership.
Yes, it is Dodds.
Well, oh, that's what you were saying. I didn't know
Yeah.
what Tots was.
And I love them, they're nice people, and I was even trying to figure out how I
Um,
could slide that into the conversation. I think that's the unfortunate thing, because that's where we're missing it, and that's kind of, it's almost like we need to go back and not necessarily do a comprehensive plan, because obviously that wasn't well received,
But
but.
Mhm.
I
We
have
need
commercial
to
here, but
figure
even
that
so, when
out.
we tried it, the
I know,
the
it's
board
like
was not
not-
friendly to anything that made the least bit of possible inconvenience to any possible
You're right.
commercial building in
And
town.
that's the
You're
thing,
right.
until
It was
we
like
start
wine,
being a
wine,
little
yeah.
bit bullyish, but nice bullies, it's not gonna change, and
You're
that's
right.
where I'm so frustrated right
This,
now.
this current board
Yeah.
is that.
They
this-
think that's being business friendly, it's being ridiculous, but anyway, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Because
So-
there are loads of communities out there with policies that are, not onerous, but they do require some change on the part of businesses. God forbid.
so should we just go ahead and maybe, I know that we need to talk about work plan specifics,
Well-
but this is a big bullet item for me. I was really
It's a huge.
ticked off when I saw that unilaterally, and I'm not nothing is against you, Jeff. It's just that when we did our research and so forth for the comprehensive plan last year, one of the things I know I was questioned about is where I got a figure, because there had been a goal set and it was publicized on the town website.
Mhm.
They have removed all that, and it's
Have they?
basically, it now just
We
says
now have no goal?
that, yeah, it just says we're committed to, I think it's
That's-
right on that part of the webpage, if you
Because
wouldn't
it was
mind bringing up
adopted
the
back in
community.
2001, I think.
Oh, yeah,
The-
it's
the
on the
policy-
website, no, but I'm saying it's on a website, like under RCACs, where it says the town of Superior is committed to, its environment, instead of the blanket statement that used to be there, which is, we had this goal set in this time that we would do this much recycling by this period. It has been changed to unilateral, we want to be a leader in recycling, and I'm like,
Here's-
that's not
I don't remember
good.
that being a
So-
board discussion.
That's
The-
interesting.
If you, yeah. I'll have to
Well-
look
I'll
it
bring
up
up the
on
page,
website.
Michelle. I've drafted the page many years ago, and I don't recall making any changes to it.
He-
There might be another page.
Here's my
but the-
concern, because we can have the budget, and we can have, even if something's in the budget and we somehow get it through, that doesn't mean that we can do it. The board has to approve every single item before you can even begin to work on it, aside. At least that was the way it was last left when I was last on the board.
Sure, any program elements that are net new would need to be
You don't
considered
get
by
to.
the board. And then
Even being in the budget isn't a go-ahead to work on it.
The
So
page
if-
isn't coming up.
So if
but
they're
the
unlikely to
page-
vote
the
on it, it's
RCAC
unlikely to
Are you
get.
spinning?
It's
Yes,
the spinning
you're
wheel of
spinning.
death, apparently, but the RCAC introductory paragraph hasn't changed in the time that I've worked for the
No,
town.
it's not the
been-
introductory paragraph, it's like literally a one-liner, and I'll probably have to go back and find it, but I
Mhm.
was looking at some stuff recently and I saw that, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. It's like,
Well, that page would be me when I get to it. And the only change I make to it is to the agenda and the notes. And that's all, and that was, so I'm not, and that, the paragraph that introduces it is straight from the resolution that the board
It's just a
approved when the
hamster.
committee was passed. The diversion goal that I think you're referring to, Lisa and Joe,
50%.
is the policy goal that the board deliberated and very specifically approved in 2001 or
That's right.
2-ish.
Yep, that's
And
right.
that has not been revisited, changed, revised, or amended in any
fact,
way.
Well, then it should be on there.
And I'm not saying that it
Actually,
was.
What you suggested was
Oh, yeah.
making the growth goal more aggressive, and I think they rejected
Yeah, so here's the-
that
yeah, here's the
I'm
idea.
not saying that anything was changed, I'm just saying they kind of slid away from this, we
Oh,
want
you-
to be a leader.
So you're
That's
saying you've
kinda
seen
like-
it in the past?
I've seen it on the website,
Hmm.
and I should have, it sent me in a tizzy, and that's
Well,
actually 2
the
months ago when
policy
I came in
itself
a bad
isn't,
mood, that's why.
there's no intent on the part of staff or anybody who's helped me with the website over the years to not be very upfront about what the town board's policy is. It just didn't come up here as an overview element. It could be easily added back. The town board's policy is the town board's policy. If it makes sense to put in here, put it in here.
Yeah, I'll have to look as to where it was. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry if it came across, I was insinuating that they changed something. It was, the perception to me is that they basically backed off of those goals instead of being a leader, like they used to really say that they wanted to be a leader. It's like we've kind of backed off and done nothing now.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I didn't take it that way. It's
Yeah.
just if there was a change to the website, I'd like, if I didn't do it,
I
I
know.
want to find out who did. I don't think there's been any change to the.
I'll have to find out where it is.
Some
'cause it
hacker.
was- It was
And it's happened
weird.
before, it'll happen again.
I don't, nothing was meant ill by it, except for when people are trying to make a change, you kind of took ill because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, great, now you're taking a step backwards again.
Yeah, I understand how you could perceive it that way, but it
Mhm.
wasn't, there was no intent on the part of staff, so we have the two
I see.
vacancies on here.
So.
But yeah, this overview is taken straight from the resolution enabling the group. So establish a goal to minimize. Yeah, this is, pretty sure this is it. And May 14th of 2001.
So where are we at, what do we have that we
It's in
already
the
have
plan.
said that we wanted to carry over
Yeah,
into
what's
the
in the-
2016?
What's in the
Last month-
budget? We first have to look at the budget, that sort of identifies a bunch of work scope things, right?
So all the items that are currently ongoing programs are contemplated and included in next year's budget. But like Lisa mentions, if there's anything that's net new, it would need to come back to the board.
Mhm.
So this is last year's work plan. The only change I've made to the top is put a 6 in here, and then I just put the word draft in here and then today's date. So if there are any changes y'all want to make, I can insert them or make them on the screen here,
On
and
the-
then I'll send this to you.
On the ongoing piece, because as you get down to the quarters, there's things that are history.
Yep, there is. So the commercial audit and residential audit program is included. The funding for the household hazardous waste
Right,
facility,
next-
the management facility, all the things that have
The
been in our.
fourth one is pretty wide open, so it seems like there are lots of things that we could do that would fall under that.
Mhm.
Promote town's diversion goal.
Sure.
So, I think there are a lot of things we could propose that would fit that particular bullet
I agree.
item.
I kind of want to put,
The
make
question
that
is-
our headline in some ways.
But the question I was asking was, what's our budget? Because the budget has a bunch of line items on it.
Mhm. All the line items that are included in the work plan?
There's a dollar sign associated with each one of those, you're saying?
Well, I'm not saying that there's a dollar
No,
sign
there's- we
associated
have
with
no
each
money.
line.
That's what I'm trying to
I'm
get.
saying there's a dollar sign associated with each of the programs. So the indoor water audits,
And some of the dollars that used to be in the RCAG budget went to the town budget.
Don't care what budget it's in, yeah.
But so it's not like,
We don't have any money
We
that we
understood
get
that.
the control except for the new part that the board generously approved so that we
I
could
don't know
look
why
at
people
hiring.
cared where it ended up. It just was
consultants.
ridiculous. red
Yeah, so there
herring.
were net
Yeah.
new changes. So in
Mhm.
addition to last year there was an addition to have the dog park compost program.
yeah.
And then the events that are ongoing, the shred event, we don't really have an expense anymore, but the household hazardous waste event has become a little more pricey over the years. Staffing and controlling and managing the costs happen at the yard waste facility are absorbed in this budget, and some additional publication for the water audit program for both his residential and commercial, and then a couple of other programs. But this, your specific question of whether or not there's money associated with any net new programs, there aren't any net new programs other than what was approved, which was an additional $1,000 for stuff, like a giveaway at events, some kind of swag item. And then $5,000 was a net new item to have somebody help me actually provide some program staff, actually go to events and do some of the outreachy kind of things that I either don't have the time for or I'm not particularly skilled at.
Well, if we're going to talk about the work scope, and I can look at all those items, or I can just talk off the text, and I'm going to do that.
Sure.
So, there are sort of three main things in recycling. One is recycling, and we've got a decent program on that. We don't have the incentives for it, but we have the program. We don't have a compost program, and compost is something I'd love to see us research, whether, improving the drop-off, figuring out what we can do about household compost or whatever. The third, frankly, is C&D. We've got building happening now. We didn't have building for, 8 years or whatever it was, but we've got building happening again. That means there's all kinds of stuff that's going to landfill that maybe doesn't necessarily have to go. And to me, that goes part and parcel with revisiting the building code
Well, we
requirements
already-
issue, so.
Didn't we adopt the green building code?
That's
one
about
year?
energy. That's 99% is
Yeah,
energy.
it's
Oh,
all
yeah,
really
but there's
energy.
recycling
Yeah.
associated with that too. Actually, it depends on which one we adopted, I don't remember.
The C&D item that I think you're referring to, Lisa, are you talking about the larger infrastructure group project from RCAB that's trying to find some ways to process C&D material?
I'm not
It'll-
going to RCAB, so no. I'm talking about, what are we
Okay.
going to do locally?
Oh, okay.
Are we going to put any requirements on? Are we going to track it? Are we going to, what should we, there's a lot of building happening, and it's probably going to continue for a while. It's a huge amount of waste, and that's sort of one time it happens, and one time it all gets created at one place as well, and so it's relatively easier to deal with than something that's so diffused. So there
Are
are
you talking
communities
about-
that put requirements on what they have to do with that kind of stuff, and that they have to pre-sort, or they at least have to have a recycling bin out there for the metals and cardboard and the other major things that have good markets. So
You're talking about the elements from net new construction, like construction that's
Yes.
happening now at the Boulder Valley Ice Facility?
Anywhere, any construction within town.
right now they're in there, but over the next few years,
Well, again, I get back.
Those are the three big
I
streams.
get back to our building code, what's it require?
That's what I'm saying.
But building code
Review
is-
building codes.
Okay, that's great.
That's what I said right here.
Mhm.
That's how I sort of was
Well, I
starting. So
didn't
those
hear
are-
that.
Yes.
But the thing is, within the
Because
building code,
you're gonna get a
there's-
pushback of adding anything to the building code.
Yes,
that-
but if you don't try, you don't get it, and it can be
Mhm.
grandfathered in, I don't want to grandfather in, but the buildings that are already currently under construction could be grandfathered, but not the ones that aren't yet under construction.
Yeah.
So Lisa,
So you know what's part of the
Personally, I
plan.
don't even think it necessarily should be part of the building code. It should just be a modus operandus
Well,
to operate within the
Well,
They're
town
only
of Superior. You
It
do
comes
these
with,
things.
it comes with the building codes, I mean, that's where it comes from. That's where it gets implemented,
But that's the whole question.
Mhm.
We research how it goes in. We don't have to answer that now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We figure out how to achieve what we're after, which I think is better management of
Sure, I'd
C and D materials.
And I agree, and that's kind of all part of the whole big picture too, where it's like, if the town board would just adopt some sort of a comprehensive policy to say, to do things here, you know, these are what we want you to do. And that actually makes us take a stance as a community to be able to be a leader, but, yeah.
And that's why I'm going to write something about where we stand relative to other communities in the county, because we're going to look sad.
Yes, I agree.
So Lisa, I took a stab at just some verbiage here as a first quarter work plan item. Research revisions, would you call them revisions to the building code to address construction and demolition materials?
I would say no, I would keep it broad. Why say that it's the building code? Why not, we have to figure out what the right way to do it is. I would say research strategies for addressing C and D waste created in town.
Okay.
And research better, additional opportunities for addressing or for recycling organics in town. Residential and commercial.
certainly organics
And then I would say research, commercial, recycling opportunities or something like that, very similar.
That is part of what's going on with the Boulder County program that we're reaching out to businesses with. And trying to, the educational materials and so forth with the business.
But that's one business by one business and it's voluntary.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't PACE also mostly focused on energy rather than, I mean, I know.
They are. We
cut
did some
encompass a
PACE
bunch of
audits and they're pretty
sustainability, but-
energy oriented. You're
Yeah.
exactly right.
I mean, they're great, but it's mostly on energy efficiency.
That's their bottom line, because that's an easy save. And oh my God, everybody needs to know that they need to switch out their lights again. Anyway.
Hey, you can get dimmable LEDs right now at Costco, 2-pack for less than $10.
Amazing.
As long as
You
it's
have
the right
to-
dimmers.
So,
you have to-
but
you
I think-
you have to-
I think
yeah.
just-
Capture the word
If we hit
verbiage, right?
C and D, if
You
we
have to
hit
install the-
commercial recycling, if we hit
Mhm.
You can use
organics,
them
and we,
dimmable or not.
and,
Yeah, we will install
Think-
dimmers.
You're trying to get me to mess with
I'm-
electricity.
I'm a
think
big
those are-
fan of dimmers.
So
I
commercial
like light
recycling,
low.
C and D, and.
Because we put those
what was
in
the
our
third one we
kitchens
said?
now,
So,
so right on the
composting? Or enhanced.
commercial recycling,
Huh?
organics, and C and D. 3 separate items, yeah.
So methods to address construction and demolition materials from new development in Superior. You wanna-
And then organics.
And organics, would that be enhancing or staff?
No, I think we
research?
need to create an organic program personally.
And
I
that
mean,
should be res and
personal,
commercial.
Maybe personal
but-
organics or something.
I'd say
like
res
that.
and commercial.
Yeah.
It's right now the only option, at least for me, because I've looked into it, is, and I'm in Rock Creek, so that's a little bit different, but it's $125 per season, and, my wife and I don't generate enough household
That's
waste
a lot of bucks.
to make that worthwhile.
That's a
No,
lot of
so
bucks.
Use the.
That's why I'd love to see like central
Use things
closets or
integrated.
something.
Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, we'd be happy to go bucket, haul it over somewhere else, but.
I have to say, and more education on the incinerator. And not everybody realizes that that's a good thing.
Because it makes us
Yeah, I
cakes,
had
is
no
that what
idea.
they're called?
Yeah.
The cakes, right?
Because
Yeah,
there's,
well,
I mean,
the-
in background, a long time ago, learned that, well, you don't want to do that because you're just putting all that stuff into the water system.
But
And-
not.
But the flip
No.
side of that is, over the last few years, as we've modified how our wastewater
Yeah,
plant
I understand
operates,
that.
we don't have as much capacity to have that much more material added.
Oh, okay, and,
We've gone down from 2 trains to 1 train and running it more efficiently, rather than having literally 2 streams of waste that are being treated on a parallel basis. We now have one train that's operating more efficiently. So we're operating more efficiently, but we don't have the capacity that we used to have in order to take a lot more net new material.
How are you taking this and that?
our capacity contains that much, but beyond that, it isn't. We're getting close, both on the water and wastewater side. The growth that we've planned for, we can manage, but beyond that, it's not.
A quick question
there's
about
not a
that.
net new.
Did that have to do with the partnership or whatever?
The
response to why we
big
did
deal
less?
with the partnership is required additions to our system, and whether there's a win-win by partnering.
Yeah, it's
Louisville is doing, they've already bonded and are doing what they need to do to accomplish all of the wastewater changes, and they can take all of ours too. But we'd have to get out of the business, and we'd have to decide if we wanted to get out of the business.
Yeah, two totally separate issues, Michelle.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure how
Several
they tie
years
together.
ago, we
so
started
that's-
working
that's
on trying to
curious.
make our plant
Thanks,
work
Joe.
better, but the nutrient standards the federal government is unrolling over the next several years, we're gonna have to find a way to address, and Louisville has taken the step to go ahead and rebuild their plant, just build a net new plant, with some ways to address that, and they'll have enough capacity to take our material, if that were something that made sense to the town. That's the separate policy.
Right.
And that's a
Okay.
big policy discussion. because
Right.
Huge
Yeah.
policy discussion.
The last thing I had on my list was confirming or enforcing or something, whatever's in the code now, making sure it's happening over at that facility over there. And you gotta find a politic way to say that.
I'm gonna say confirming compliance
Yeah,
Sure.
That's it.
with.
With existing recycling and energy regulations. Because I don't suspect that's the greatest priority of the inspector. No offense to him.
Yeah. no
And I know
offense.
it's not the developer's priority, so.
Yeah, we know that the inspector cannot accomplish what he can because, almost every house in Rock Creek had code violations at the time of approval.
Well, we have a separate engineer designated as handling
Oh, things are money.
this thing, but
So perhaps a meeting with them to start with and then go from there.
the first step is, number one up there, know where we are, and
Yeah.
then what has to be confirmed.
So.
But those are the
so
things I
these
had
are
for
the
the
four
women.
ads I put up here.
Isn't
So
that-
researching
I don't,
methods
we don't
for
need
C&D.
1,500 bullets, that's, that just seems
I know, to me, it
troublesome
just-
to me to have that many bullets.
Well,
Well,
here's,
that's all first quarter stuff right there.
well, and here's part of a couple of problems. So we ended up leaving a lot of stuff in there when we tried to pull apart the comprehensive plan, with the plan to obviously come back and then trim it up. So we think we just have to really look at what's truly approachable and doable and weed that all out.
And I'm not saying those things are all first quarter, I'm saying those are over the year.
Yeah, I just wanted to capture
That's
Yes.
the
those.
most ongoing.
Yeah.
Well, the first one should be a first quarter
Yeah.
attack,
Yes.
because that's real.
It's imminent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the tricky thing is, like, the organics really need to kind of come in there too, because we need to be able to have it prepared for the spring and in
That's
terms
fine.
of rolling out.
So we could leave the commercial for later, the other commercial things for
That's a
later.
good call, yeah.
Is there anything else urgent? Because I do have, it's time.
No,
and I-
only if the
Yeah.
committee is interested in anything else. Those are the items we had on the agenda.
Since we don't have quorum anyways, it's
already
just
an
all
all-nighter.
about, yeah.
Any other ideas people were, I was happy to listen to other ideas people had.
No.
I think the key, one of the key is taking out the things that are done, not relevant.
Yeah.
Just make sure they don't continue in there, makes us look bad.
It does, and I just really, I
Like
know
the,
my
uh,
focus is all about the diversion goals and how we can
Energy
actually start
smart,
attacking
yeah.
something.
The input into the solicitation, that just all delete.
Thanks, everybody, sorry I couldn't stay longer.
Good seeing you.
So I'll do a
State
strike.
recycling plan for the state of Connecticut, so I have to finish that
Well,
report
the thing is,
tonight.
like, that's already done anyways, yeah, you put in
Okay,
the town's
and
waste
the-
contract, yeah.
Is that, Rock Creek, that's done too, or is that an ongoing?
That's slightly an ongoing thing, because what we were trying to get the HOA to do was to come up with better options, believe it or not, for the compost. So, in some ways, it can be scratched, because it'll come up again when we go to initiate things.
So eliminate that one?
And we've researched the PACE program, so it's clean.
Mhm.
That's all the stuff I think I was concerned that we didn't accidentally leave in there.
Yeah. We haven't even visited this at all, like Martin said, it's like, this is just
Yeah,
last
I know,
year's.
it's first shot. We can't vote to do anything tonight anyway, so, but it's a good start.
So Garden in a Box program was the second quarter item. I'm sorry, Joe, I'm skipping ahead, so I'm going to note the changes and maybe try to get
Do
through
we
the
have
other
an
quarters.
item in there about, like, actually doing outreach for the PACE program? I know
Yeah,
that's something
that
that
was
was
Well, that's a good
discussed,
point. Yeah,
but-
we did that, and then the next step was supposed to be the outreach. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, 'cause until we do
So
that, it's
that
kind of
was
not
done, that was like,
helpful.
that is later, or was, let me see.
I mean, that can kind of be any time, you know.
But so it might move up, because it was, I thought it was,
Well, this group had talked about participating and helping get the word out. When Leo was here a couple of months ago to do that great kind of almost training session on what PACE involves, and then we had the booth at Chili Fest, and then there is a new PACE advisor who started last month, I think, and I think they're doing some door-to-door outreach or sending some materials directly to businesses in Superior right now.
Yes.
Kimberly was helping
Sounds about
spearhead
right.
some of that individual door-to-door outreach, but having it be on behalf of a resident to hopefully have a little more gravity rather than somebody.
So how
net new
about
coming.
in the second quarter, then, we just kind of put a potential of, you know, PACE outreach, you know, just name it as that, and then,
Mhm.
yeah, kind of come up with what we're going to be actually doing.
Okay. The Artemis facility opens in the second quarter, and that's why that's been in here. And then the Garden in a Box program we've supported in the past, but the board had that listed as a Garden in a Box, listed as a research item.
Mhm.
So we could come back to that. But I guess this one wasn't completed because the Garden in a Box program was sold out almost immediately.
It was.
When
We were
it was-
too late.
We were almost too late by waiting, so I'll have that.
And
as
actually,
an
second
earlier
quarter
item.
is still too late for it, to tell you the truth.
so should it be the first quarter?
Yeah, because I think that was the problem, we didn't hit it, but when we got there, it was like May, and that's too late, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll add that.
Do you know if PACE does new construction, or is it mostly focused on retrofits for existing buildings?
I think it's retrofit.
Okay, that's what I was
On
thinking.
that.
It's
Well,
for
I have
existing,
here-
yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Just wondering if there's a way to incorporate that with
I
the
bet
new
your answer's
concept.
in there.
Yeah, probably. Remember I looked at it a while back, but.
In fact, you can have this.
Perfect.
Perfect present for you, that's all you wanted.
This I want back.
Yeah, and it's tricky, Joe, too, because we have items on here that, it's not anything that we do per se, they're just still in there because that's when they happen, is that right, Martin? But
Yes.
it's like, you know, I mean, in a way, you can question, why do we have indoor residential audits in there? Because we actually do nothing with them, but I think the reason that we put them in there is because that's what we wanted to focus on for the newsletter topics, is that
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's
Yeah.
those other topics, and then
Advertising.
making sure that the programs that this committee advocates for,
Mhm.
you're involved with, because if you're not involved with them, it's not gonna be.
Yeah.
The genesis of the participating in some of those programs, and helping
You know-
continually justify the budget, is advocacy of this group and the fact that you recommend it.
I've got a personal thing, I don't know where it would fit in, but it is really hard to buy light bulbs nowadays. And I'm thinking you need an educational
That's actually not a bad idea.
program
to
or
get
idea
people
of explaining
up
the
to
bulbs
speed.
and what they're good for and which ones do which, you know, and like LEDs, and then you got different wattages or equivalencies, and then you got bright and, you know, not bright, and then you CFLs and what the others are good for. Preparing
CFLs
a
are not
one-page
good for anything.
document.
Maybe just having a mailer for light
Yeah,
bulbs next year?
A cheat sheet for people.
Yeah, that'd be
I mean, it
cool.
used to be
That's a
really
good idea,
easy to
actually.
buy light bulbs, and it's not anymore.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna list
So
that,
the-
Joe, just as a
the
light
UA just
bulb
came out with
education
a
mailer, maybe
light
as a
packs
second quarter item.
label that's gonna go on
And
all
then the
new
person who
light
helps
bulbs.
me with,
The-
hopefully if I
you
get
did?
somebody who can help
I
me with
think
some
it's
of
the
the
DOE.
program
Oh,
outreach, maybe
interesting.
It looks like a
focus
nutrition
on that.
facts label, but it's all about like equivalent wattages and brightnesses and
that's
stuff.
cool.
And so that's just starting to come out now, but it's really
So that's
cool.
almost good timing then. Unfortunately, it won't be in time for Christmas, but I think we could really get a comprehensive guide, because it was amazing looking at Christmas holiday lights, let's just call them that, the other day, and how they really are all switching to LED and things like that.
Yeah,
and
we're
how
not
inexpensive
swapping
they become.
anymore, we are taking old ones.
No, that program, that was a county program that ended a couple, like Christmas before last.
Mhm.
So I added, like Joe mentioned, I have a tentative placeholder here, light bulb education mailer. It was the second quarter item, and then the water audits are initiated, the yard waste facility opens, and then the education programs we coordinate with EcoCycle are usually second quarter items. And then events. The event season with the household hazardous waste shred and the sustainability corner at Arbor Day, usually all kind of spring or second quarter events.
So you'll have to check your dates on that when you have them.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll update
Please.
the dates. The
Please,
dates-
please, please don't make it a 4-day weekend for the
It's-
school like you did last
I
time.
wish I could control what the school
Or was
system
it
tells us.
always the
So-
same weekend, or was Arbor Day and?
It's always going to be a day that doesn't make sense for
Yeah.
people, or some folks, regardless. But
Yeah, regardless, but that one that's like the worst, because if it lines up again with the same weekend, we have a full 4-day weekend that same weekend, and I'm just like, God, it's the worst weekend ever, because everybody's blown out of town.
If that's what the school district tells us, those are the dates that we have available.
I know, that's the kind
I know,
of
it's a
sad,
bummer.
funny part.
Funny, sad. So the business recognition program, that's the PACE.
That's PACE. So
I'm going to say
that
that
got
that's done.
implemented, right?
So that's, yeah, that will be contemplated. So like when Lee was here before, we talked about some potential
Mhm.
ways of recognition. So for some folks who do, if we can find some folks who are interested in being participants in the PACE program for 2016, have something come before the board where they're recognized by their local jurisdiction rather than just by, or in addition to the recognition by the county.
Mhm.
And that was included.
That's actually at least one kind of good step in the direction with the pace. I mean, it's ultimately not like we would all want, since we did discuss it, it's mostly energy, but it's at least one good step, because maybe that'll get those businesses interested in doing a little bit more.
Mhm.
That was the whole thought process on that, right?
Yes, yeah, find somebody to dip their toe in it, and then maybe bring along some of their friends, or to try and broaden their
That's kind of
participation.
an
And PACE
idea.
is supposed to be entirely cost effective, I believe, in terms of
Mhm.
energy efficiency and stuff. I mean, it has pretty fast, simple payback periods, so it should be a really easy, no-brainer way to get people in the door. So if,
Yeah, for some of them,
if we're
so
not
there's
seeing
definitely some
businesses
low-hanging fruit.
participate,
And we have to
that would
look
be
at
worrying
what
for me.
is going on.
Yeah.
So dog park,
Just means basically
dog
like-
park compost program.
So we really did evaluate that, and we made a
Doesn't need to be
recommendation to
evaluated.
Yeah,
expand
so I
it.
guess in my mind, I'm gonna move that down.
Do
as
we
a-
need to revisit it in when do
I'm
we
gonna
have to
call it
make
a
budget
budget
stuff?
recommendation.
Yeah.
Maybe for next year. I'm just gonna-
Because we need to see if they expanded it, and then they were gonna get another bin during the high peak times, right?
We would have, but it wasn't necessary.
Right, but
But
we
it would
still
be a
left the
potential
room
add.
for that. Yeah, we left the room for that, so we need to see how it
Yes.
went. Yeah.
And then third quarter goals, we continue with the water audits. The yard waste facility is still open. The fall leaf collection program, the possibility of a fall leaf collection program, like a one-time event, is, I think.
Now, this is
okay.
where I wish the Girl Scouts could do it, but there's so many of them that are just really too little.
One leaf per person.
That's where I love a bunch of ambitious teenagers that had a couple trucks and trailers could make some serious money picking up stuff.
And then the third and fourth quarter items, we got those there. And I actually need to leave in about 2 minutes. I
Okay.
apologize to the group, but I've got a little boy, I've got to get to basketball practice.
You're good.
But if there are some third or fourth quarter items, I'd be glad to include those here. So again, the continuation of the water audits and the yard waste facility, that fall leaf collection program, maybe I'll just put a question mark by that one. We'll think maybe.
So I guess on number 2 in the fourth quarter, obviously change that to 2017.
And the shredded is electronic,
And up top two, second quarter.
shredded and electronic coordinate with.
What do we
I
use?
totally missed that it was
That's just
electronic.
the
I hope I don't.
2016 budget recommendations.
Okay, yeah.
Second quarter, policy need to be changed.
Yeah, all the dates have to go up.
That one.
Our man in action will probably catch all that in the end.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There'll be a couple things here that I do tweak on your behalf, but these will be the changes that come before. I'll email these with the meeting notes to the group, if I can get to it tomorrow or early next week.
With encouragement for them to think about things for December. We want to hit it home on December.
So, in terms of that placeholder item, that can go away, or that can stay there, and the other HOA thing go away? Does that make sense?
Yeah, or it's essentially an ongoing item, and we turned into a
Mhm.
placeholder item last year, because it was
Yeah, 'cause we
maybe
hadn't
at one
really
time,
established
but it
it
wasn't
yet, but now it
necessarily
seems to
associated
work
with a
out.
quarter.
Mm.
Yeah, so having Jim or somebody else from the HOA board attend these meetings has been great.
Yeah.
It almost is an ongoing item.
Yeah, let's
Well, I guess
just
here,
put it
yeah,
in
so
there.
the
Yeah.
coordination with the Rock Creek Homeowners Association continues as an ongoing goal. I think last year the point was to
It
highlight
was
it.
communication, so maybe just add, just for the moment being up on that top line, just add, and continue communication, suggestions, or whatever.
I saw something in, well, I forget which quarter, it said something about staffing resources. That was accomplished?
It was, and it will be, well, depending on how it goes, something
Yeah.
for this group to consider recommending for the
More
2017
staffing?
budget.
You want
Yeah.
more?
Well, it depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's going to be scalable according to your recommendations and then the board's
Okay, so keep
interest in taking on any new programs.
I think it looks great. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure there's definitely more review, but I think for a quick run-through, I think that did good.
Okay.
Because you've got a boy to take the
I
basketball.
do,
And I've got
unfortunately. I'm
kids
sorry to
running
kind of
around
rush
the
you
house.
through. So these third and fourth quarter items, maybe it might make sense to have one of these ads that Lisa proposed, maybe moving one or two of those down to maybe a third
Yeah,
or
the
fourth
commercial
quarter
ones
item.
definitely can move. We need to, we definitely need to focus on things that could affect the residents for the spring and the summer being a priority.
Mhm. Okay, maybe I'll add the commercial as a third quarter item.
Sounds good, because it's kind of when it slows down, we've already planned the events and gone all
Where
that done.
in there, we have encouraged recycling plans already for businesses.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's a good first pass.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll tidy these up a little bit and I'll send these out to the group.
Thanks a bunch, Martin.
Well, thanks.
Dinner time. Take all of those, or some of those, or any of that? I don't need to
Thanks,
be
Martin.
holding
Have a
on
good
to
night.
that
Sure,
much.
thank you guys.
Just
I
Joe
don't
can
know if I got
lock
that
up,
much.
right?
I'll take one. I'm not sure I need any more than that for now.
Well, you want one?
Sure. And then we have to run because Martin is the only one that can
Yeah.
lock up. He says you
Yeah,
can't.
take some.
Oh.
Takes a village.
He's kicking
to
us out. No, I'm just
open
teasing.
this room. I appreciate it.
Okay. Two of these are coming back at us. Next time I'll take one of these and see if I can find room at Starbucks, but I don't think they have room. I'm pretty sure they didn't.
That's pretty funny. But yes, so as a side thing, if you ever run into Ed or Monique, now you know a topic. So why don't you offer recycling at your buildings?
Why don't they have compostable cups? That's my biggest.
Well, that's a whole separate Starbucks thing, but yeah, but even in the major goal, you know, how much cardboard Starbucks, I mean, I know how much our Dairy Queen goes through, and that's a whole other sore topic. But yeah, because my dad wouldn't do recycling either, but, you know, that's Loveland, so. But, you know, he said if he was going to, he would, if he wanted to brag about it, but he's never been doing it on his own.
We never